To my shame, I had never seen a movie starring Bruce Lee, and I have no real excuse to why. I've seen many a kung fu film, I have a love of classic cinema, I have nothing against the principle of watching a Bruce Lee film, I just never had. For my birthday, my friend purchased me Game of Death on UHD, but when I opened it I saw the wrong discs were within. I blamed that on the manufacturer, Arrow Video, as the case was new and sealed. But it turns out someone had exchanged the disc and resealed the package and then returned it to Amazon for a refund. So while I waited for a replacement, I watched Enter the Dragon. I'm not going to talk about it at great length here, mainly because it's a Warner Brothers film and they're notorious for taking down clips of their movies from YouTube. I'm sure this film must have been very exciting at the time of release, the first mainstream big budget kung fu film with stars and lots of action and a proper plot. I thought it was okay. Yeah. Didn't hate anything about it. It was alright.
In August of 1972, Bruce begins work on a project which will communicate for the first time the true essence of the revolutionary martial arts ideology, which he's developed over a lifetime of dedicated study, philosophical reflection, and impartial evaluation. His ideology is known simply as Jeet Kune Do, or the way of the intercepting fist, and the project which he has chosen to illustrate it is entitled The Game of Death.
Game of Death originally started production before Enter the Dragon, based on a script by and directed by Bruce Lee. They shot about 2 hours worth of footage, mainly fights, before Lee got the news that Enter the Dragon had received the green light. So production was paused but not abandoned so Lee could go shoot his biggest mainstream hit.
Feeling more confident than ever about his future, he begins to talk to ex-Bond star George Lazenby about a major role, as he undoubtedly feels it will give the film a greater level of commerciality.
But as I'm sure everyone watching this already knows, Bruce Lee died in July 1973 before the production of Game of Death could be finished.
When he passed away, and then the movie was released after he passed away, there was all kind of conspiracy theories. People thought that triads, the mafia, had something to do with it. It was said that his family had a curse, his father had a curse, that he passed on to Brandon. And what is your belief on how he passed away?
What's the story in the West? I don't know.
Oh, you don't know the story in the West? That there was...
How Bruce Lee died?
They said it was a couple.
Yeah.
They said he upset it because of his success in the film industry and taking the martial arts around the world, that he upset it, the triads, mafia organization.
No.
Okay, that wasn't true. The others said that he was fighting a curse that was... No, that's not true.
Not
okay.
true.
So what? So
that news in the public. I think in the old days, 30 years ago, because the communication not fast enough.
Yeah.
There's no internet. Nobody knows. He died in somebody's house. Yeah, that's everybody knows. He died in somebody's house. My boss go to pick him up. Then send you to the hospital. Then that's the true thing.
That's the true thing.
Of course, you can find out more. I don't want to say in detail.
Yeah.
You find out the detail yourself.
They do the dive myself.
In Death, Bruce Lee became infamous, and Enter the Dragon, taking the mainstream by storm, left a thirst for Bruce Lee's movies that alas he was unable to fulfill. So those 2 hours of raw footage filmed for Bruce Lee's Game of Death was given to Enter the Dragon director Robert Klaus. He was unable to make the film as originally intended, so crafted a new narrative around the footage he had.
So you got in here, finally.
Necessity is the mother of invention. To fill in the gaps in the narrative, they had to use a mix of stock footage, body doubles, and some interesting compositing. In that short scene, we saw all three. The door opens and we see a composited image. I'm not sure if the head and body come from the same source, but the voice is clearly dubbed, and if you watch closely, that towel around his neck is in 2D. You can see his shoulder creep over the edge because it's just been pasted over the top. This footage was of course created when we didn't have the opportunity to re-watch things in high definition. Then we cut to a body double walking from the door to the mirror. We see his face clearly, but only for a moment. Then we get a close-up of the real Bruce. The large grain structure revealing that this may have been optically reframed.
Here. It's getting a little late. We'll be sitting right there by the telephone. just waiting for you to call. Patience, that's not one of our virtues.
Look at this shot. From the looks of it, they've taken a cardboard cutout of Bruce's face and glued it to the mirror.
Billy? Billy.
When a body double is used, they often have their face in shadow or obscured by sunglasses or a beard. If ever it were needed to disprove the racist stereotype that all Chinese people look the same, then this film would be Exhibit A, as it is never more clear that these are two different people than when someone is playing Bruce Lee's role.
I can't place him, but there was something there I recognized.
Stick is right. There was something different about that man. He not only wanted to kill, he wanted to punish me as well.
Does this make the film unwatchable? No, far from it. The patchwork quilt nature of the plot is one of the most interesting things about a film like this.
I told you before I wouldn't mistake Billy's voice.
Trail of the Pink Panther came out in 1982, 2 years after the death of its star, Peter Sellers. All of his scenes in the movie are constructed from deleted or repeated scenes from the previous Pink Panther movies. But the fun in this movie, if there is any, is seeing how they weave the plot around what they already have. Sort of like a jukebox musical crowbarring story around pre-written tracks.
Harry, we just met. Today.
Yes, but when you know, you know. When you fall, you fall. And when you're defeated by love, you're utterly defeated. My.
This is the legendarily bad film Plan 9 from Outer Space, made by Edward D. Wood Jr. and starring former Dracula actor Bela Lugosi, only he doesn't star in it. Long before the production began, Ed Wood and the then ailing horror icon spent a day improvising scenes in hope that it would lift Lugosi's mood. After Lugosi's death, Wood used the footage to secure finance of his B-movie on the promise that it would have a star in it. The silent movie footage was shot with no plan in mind, so the final movie uses far too much voiceover to try and explain it away.
Just at sundown, a small group gathered in silent prayer around the newly opened grave of the beloved wife of an elderly man. Sundown of the day, yet also the sundown of the old man's heart.
When Bela Lugosi's character has to appear on screen in a scene not filmed before his death, and he's played by a body double that's at least a foot taller than him and keeps his face covered with his arm. I wonder what my reaction to Game of Death would have been had I not known of Bruce Lee's death. The action scenes are great, even the ones performed by body doubles. That yellow jumpsuit is iconic, and some of the body doubling stuff is done rather well. This film isn't better than Enter the Dragon, but I am more likely to rewatch it.
Now at last, Lee is on the verge of realizing his most enduring and heartfelt ambition: to communicate the beauty of his Chinese culture and the powerful dynamic of his unique martial arts philosophy to a truly worldwide audience through the medium of film. It is then, with a cruel sense of irony, that fate strikes its most tragic blow.
From the glimpses we get on the extra features on the disc, Bruce Lee's original vision would have far surpassed even his best work. But the Game of Death we got is actually okay. And it was a hit. A big enough hit to warrant a sequel. Game of Death 2 came out 4 years after Game of Death, and they're only tangentially connected. Because there are no other unfinished Bruce Lee films knocking about in studio vaults, this production had to pull its Bruce Lee footage from deleted scenes and unused takes from other movies. It kind of reminds me of that thing they do in any long-running sitcom when they want a week off. They gather together clips from previous episodes and write about 6 minutes of plot to go around it. And when the characters say, "Hey, do you remember that time when?" it does one of those dreamy cuts to a flashback.
Let's have a moment of silence for all the girls that have found me irresistible. Mirror, mirror on the wall, Jean-Claude Van Damme, I'm fine.
NG came to me and says, I have a part for you in this film. What it is we're taking footage of the Game of Death. Although the Game of Death Part 1 had already been done, they were going to take footage of the Game of Death and do another film called The Tower of Death. But I think he had a little bit of difficulty with the amount of footage, actual real footage of Bruce Lee that was available. But he took whatever was there and tried to put this film together. And the first time that I went and actually worked on the film was in Tokyo. So we worked in Tokyo, we did some shooting in Tokyo, and then after that we went to Korea.
The 3 films reviewed in this video represents all of the Bruce Lee films I have seen, and Bruce Lee didn't even star in 2 of them, so when I see scenes from other films it's fresh to me. My naivety to the subject works in the film's favour. Everything is new. I particularly like the black and white flashback sequences, which were taken from a film the English language title of which was The Kid.
Here, Mother wouldn't take my money.
Of course she wouldn't. You got it by cheating the cards.
At least I didn't steal it.
What throws me out of the film is this little touch of Tarantino-style postmodernism when the text comes up on the screen, because it refers to the actor, Bruce Lee, and not Billy Lowe, which is what the character is called. The Billy Lowe character is actually only in this film for just over half an hour, before falling to his death.
Emotional damage!
Thereafter, leading man duties are passed over to his brother, Bobby Lowe, and it becomes a fun but rather standard kung fu film. If I sound naive rather than my normal informed self, then that's because I am. I rather enjoyed both Game of Death movies, not despite of their flaws, but because of them. And if that makes me an unsophisticated kung fu fan, then so be it. I have now seen some Bruce Lee movies, and you know what? I'd watch more. I have just signed up to Ko-Fi, which I'm told is for people who enjoyed your work to send you money. So if you enjoyed this, you can send me all that cumbersome money which is littering up your bank account. There's a link in the description. I'm Scott Kingsnorth, and I'm making a movie.